And I'm proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. For those who are feeling American at heart and who want to start this journey, we're here at Visa Franchise to help you any day, all day. I'm joined by Grant Dwyer, U.S. immigration attorney. Grant, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Aladdin.
Grant, today we'll be talking about a very good and important step of that becoming an American journey, the E2 visa, which happens to be one of the most advantageous ways for whomever so is looking to dip their toes in the water to see if they're going to like the country, to see if they're going to be able to work and make money here in the US. We're going to try to dissect and take a deeper dive into what this visa category is and how to get it in a step-by-step way. So I'm your host, Alaattin from Visa Franchise. And what we're going to do today is to discuss whether an 80K or a lower level of investment is possible for E2 visa. We'll be breaking down some myths and sharing certain steps to qualify and how to do it. And in the meantime, for our audience who are joining, please feel free to send in your questions. We're here to address those. That being said, Grant Dwyer, would you please open up with, a general overview, or let's say your take? You have these great analogies. Your take of what the E2 visa is for you and how would you approach it?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me on, Aladdin. Almost every visa class in the United States focuses on you, the applicant, right? They want to know what you're good at, what your job is. They want to look at your resume. The E2 alone kind of stands apart. The E2 is not very much about the applicant. It's much more about the applicant's wallet or bank account, right? The easiest way to understand this visa is to think of it in terms of dollars. I always kind of say, Aladdin, you've heard me say before, that the United States government has a default position, right? They begin in a certain place, and their default position is no, stay home, don't come to the United States. Every
Mm.
time someone applies for a visa, they are saying back to the US government, hey, make an exception for me. Let me in, and it's going to be better for you in the long run, right? And the way you do that with an E2 visa application is you point over your shoulder, and over your shoulder, there's a big bag of money, right? And you say, if you let me into the country, I'm going to bring this bag of money with me. I'm going to invest it and spend it. And tomorrow, once I'm there, US citizens are going to be richer because I came, right? So that's the E2 visa at heart. It's about bringing money from overseas into the United States, investing it, spending it, and enriching the United States economy.
That's a great way to put it, Grant. But let me sort of like play the devil's advocate here, right? What we're usually talking about with the E2 visa is 80K, 100K, 150K, 200K, whatever the case may be. In a $30 trillion economy, that's really nothing, right? Does the US really need your 100K? Not so much. But could it be because what you're promising to do here, how many jobs you'll be creating, whether you're qualified for it, how much taxes they're expected to pay, or in the next 5 years, where is this business going to be? Does that also play a great factor, especially at lower investment levels like 50K, 60K, 80K?
Sure, that's a good point. So when you hear me talk about the big bag of money and you look behind yourself, and maybe you don't have a big bag of money back there, right? But you've got some funds you can invest. Then the question becomes, okay, how big does the bag need to be? And to answer that question, I think you start to look at the questions you're posing, which is, what am I going to do with the funds that I've invested? I'm not the richest guy in the world. Maybe I'm not going to bring over 100,000. Maybe I'm not even going to bring over 80,000. I'm looking at a number less than that, right? So then the government's going to want to ask you, where's the money going and what are you going to do with it? I'm going to employ a couple Americans. They're probably going to have jobs in my business. That's really meaningful. Anytime you can tell a politician, a US government agency, hey, tomorrow, 2, 3, 4 American citizens are going to have jobs that they don't have today, that's a really strong selling point. I'm going to invest in my business's physical presence. We're going to rent office space. So now the landlord's getting paid every month, right? The way in which you use your investment can be as important as the number.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as you pointed out quite correctly, and here I'd like to share a bit of information about who we are here. So Joe Findaro is the father of Patrick and Jack Findaro, the two co-founders of the company. Joe he's an attorney with 40 years experience working with U.S. Congress and in White House. He's our immigration policy advisor. And he always says that, there are, rules that are written, and depending on the government's policy, there are certain unspoken rules, right? Recently, what we're seeing is the America First policy, buy American, hire American. So there's a favorable position from the government's end towards people who are bringing their money here, bringing their expertise, bringing their businesses to create jobs, source materials here locally, and to sort of like, give that boost to at least at a very, very small scale, that a winning argument for an E2 visa with investment levels that are around 100K or less is something to that effect.
Yeah, I think so. Your audio chopped up there a little bit, but I think you're right. In this current climate of kind of America First focus, right? It's really important that the applicant is able to articulate, this is why my presence, my investment in the United States will benefit the United States economy. May have lost Alaattin there a little bit. As he gets back in, I guess I'll just expand on that a little bit. One of the reasons Alaattin mentioned to me that he wanted me to come and talk today was to try to focus on applicants who are looking at a humbler or a lower number of investment, right? So the question I probably get asked more frequently than any other is there some magic number? Is there a certain level of investment that I have to reach for me to get this visa? When you logged off there, we lost your connection there for a second. I was just talking a little bit about whether or not.
Was the question clear?
We lost your signal there for a minute, so I was just talking about whether or not there is kind of the magic number, the minimum threshold of investment. And the answer is no, right? The answer is that it's going to really depend on what type of business you're investing in, and that your investment is proportional and sufficient enough to fund that business. But let me pass it back over to you if you're back with us.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what happened there with the connection, but I guess what I was trying to say is that sometimes certain things are on paper in terms of criteria. Hey, you need to fulfill, 5 criteria, 6 criteria, 7 criteria, whatever the case may be for that particular visa category. And there are also unspoken rules that are generally circulating around the policymakers, be it, the U.S. Congress or, White House. And sometimes governments might take certain positions which may favor investors. What we're seeing today is the America First policy, which is, the position of the government right now is quite favorable towards people who are bringing in their money. Again, what we said at the very beginning, it's not necessarily about how much money you bring. It's about what you're going to do with it. And quite frankly, these days, it's all about buy American, hire American, source materials locally, create jobs, and make sure you have a pretty decent business plan that you can convince the visa officer, hey, look, this is what I'm going to be doing in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the most attractive applications are the ones that, just as you mentioned, really emphasize that this investment is going to be active in the local economy.
All right, cool. Um, well, thanks for sending in your questions, guys. Please don't forget to pay your dues. Your dues is one like per question. Um, we have a question here from Thomas Jameson. I was going to say Thomas Jefferson. Why do you need the visa for, man? Hi, are online or e-commerce businesses accepted for E2, or does it have to be a physical location? Thanks. A question that we get all the time. Please weigh in on that, Grant Dwyer.
Sure. The quick answer is yes. E-commerce businesses absolutely can be the vehicle or the foundation of an E2 visa. However, it can be a little bit more challenging to make a persuasive argument. And one of the things to keep in mind is when you're proposing to the United States government that you get this E2 visa, you're making a promise, right? That I'm going to bring this money in, I'm going to invest it and spend it. But you also have to justify why you need to be here. So remember my default position. The United States' default position is stay home. That's where they begin, right? You convince them to give you the visa by saying, hey, I'm ready to make this active at-risk investment. But you also need to convince them that means I got to come, not just my money, because nothing would be better for the US government than you sending over your whole bank account and you stay somewhere else, right? And so they need to know, why do you need to be here physically on the ground? So for an e-commerce business, it's really important to justify your physical presence. If this is a business you can run on your laptop, they will wonder, why can't you run it on your laptop from Turkey or Colombia or Mexico? Tell me why you need to be here. And we're good at helping clients answer that question, but it's something to think about.
Right. Usually with cases like that, I mean, in the past, there was, a lot of confusion, especially like 5, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when these things were new. Attorneys usually had a position where, hey, listen, we need a brick and mortar. We need a brick and mortar. But what happened over the years, and as Visa franchise, we took this initiative to sort of like invest in this particular way of obtaining the E2 visa. It really comes down to, as Grant said, very reasons why you need to be here physically. E-commerce business. Do you have a warehouse here? Do you keep materials here? Are you employing people? Are you working with US-based companies? Do you need to be here? Do you have clients that you need face-to-face meetings? All these things are very, very important. And one other thing for e-commerce businesses is that I know this could be hard for some business, but right now, US is pretty big on manufacturing. And if you can open up, a small manufacturing plant here, even if it's just an assembly line, it's something very small. There are co-work spaces, would you believe, in the heart of Manhattan that you can rent for $2,000, for $3,000, a small manufacturing space. One of our clients was interested in renting a place like that. So something like that, if it's consistent within your business plan, if it makes sense for you, something like that would definitely help strengthen your argument. That's that. Okay, we got another question here. Can I partner with someone in the US who already has a company and still qualify for E2 visa? What would be an argument against that, Grant?
It's a really good, smart question from David there. What the US government wants to see is that the E2 applicant has what the government will call operational control of the company, right? What does operational control mean? In practice, it usually means hiring and firing power, as well as financial authority, that you can write checks out of the business account. You control the finances. What we always say is that the bottom line in terms of ownership is 50%. So long as you can demonstrate that you have 50% legal ownership of the company, then we can make a strong argument that you have operational control. Even more than 50%, it's better, it's easier, it's cleaner, but at least having 50% ownership is enough. So yeah, if a US friend or relative owns a company and you can buy 50%, that suffices.
Cool. Thanks. Let's just carry on with our usual rundown. And here's a question for you, Grant. When structuring an investment, what's the smartest way to set up the LLC and show ownership? It nicely ties to this question as well.
Sure. Um, Most of the E2 visa applications that I process, as you mentioned, are LLCs. It doesn't mean they can't be C Corps or S Corps or some other kind of corporate structure, but LLC seems to be the most basic because there's some private ownership there, right? I would recommend first evaluating if the LLC will work for your business. The next question is where to incorporate. I'm seeing a lot more applicants incorporating in Wyoming, which seems to kind of be like the new Delaware in the United States, a very business-friendly state. If possible, though, I always recommend incorporating in the state where you'll be doing business, right? So those are the first two things to think about. After that, you want to really show that operational control. So you really want to document your ownership, whether that's through the articles of incorporation, naming you as a majority owner, an operating agreement within the business, explaining your ownership, your control, membership certificates, capital contributions, any kind of paper documents that you can produce that underscore your operational control of the corporation.
Great. A very good follow-up question here, Grant, would be, can I register a holding company? Can I form a holding company and have multiple businesses underneath which I apply the E2 visa with, and provided that works? 2 years down the line, a year down the line, can I open another business?
It's a good question, and you're going to start to see, if you haven't already learned from spending time with me, Alaattin, that lawyers always answer things yes, but, right? That's a yes, but answer right there. A lot of applicants will talk to me and propose this very idea. Listen, I don't know exactly what I want to do business-wise, or I have one plan, but I'm a talented person. I might want to do 2 or 3 things down the road, right? So how about my E2 application is a holding company, just as you suggest. And underneath that umbrella, I can open up a bunch of different companies, right? So number one, there's no statute or rule or law that says you cannot do this. And as a matter of fact, we've had success with applicants who do just this. Here's the but part, right? But it's complicated. It's a little bit more complex and difficult to get an approval. Because on a basic level, the US government will be saying to you, what are you coming here to do? We want to know exactly what you're coming here to do. Don't hide the ball behind your back, right? We want a professionally written business plan. We want you to project out the next 5 years of your business. What are the profits? What are the losses? How many people will you employ? Where will you be located? Where are your customers going to come from? Tell us everything there is to know about your business. So if the government gets the sense that you've kind of got the football behind your back, right, and you've got other plans you're not transparent about, they may have some doubts about your application. So when people approach me with the holding company question, I give them the yes, but, right? It's doable. But if you really want to maximize your chances of success in getting this visa, it's best to put everything on the table from the start.
Got it. Thanks, Grant. Here's a great question. Kind of like the reason why we're doing these live streams. We've been answering this question from the very beginning, but thanks, Marcelo, for sending in the question. I hope that you paid your due, which is 1 like per person. So provided you've done that, we're going to go ahead and try to answer this question. I've seen people say you need at least $150,000 to look credible to USCIS. How true is that? Well, the title of this live stream is How to Get E2 Visa with 80K. So what needs to happen, Grant, for someone to qualify for E2 visa for less, significantly less than 150K?
Sure. So directly to Marcelo's question, not true, I think is the 2-word answer, right? But the really important word in his question is credible. you want to project credibility, right? So there are all types of visa applications. Alaattin, you've worked with many of them. I've worked with many of them where the applicant gets the visa, is successful with investments far less than 150, often far less than $80,000, right? These applicants usually are very credible in terms of they are believable, trustworthy, they've done the homework, they know what they're doing. That's what the government wants to see. So if you have a business idea, and let's say it's some type of service business, right? You can fund this business sufficiently with a number that's far less than 80,000, and the business will have enough liquidity, right? And you know what you're doing, you've done the homework, you know how you're going to make this business profitable. You're exactly the type of applicant the government wants to see, right? So yes, it's doable. No, there's no magic number. And what really counts is proportionality and credibility.
Got it. Another question from, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct, Maupa or Maupa. Does the E2 visa, what if it's getting declined, affect the ESTA? Is there a way to get a green card after some years? So this is like two questions in one. Let's address the first one. I got a denial. Does it affect my ESTA? Can I just travel to the US on ESTA under normal circumstances?
Sure. Anytime you get a denial from the US government, it's kind of in the books, right? They will always see it. It's in the system. So anyone should start with that honest answer that it's never good to get denied, right? And it will always be seen forever. Having said that, it's not the end of the line, right? I know many applicants who are denied for this or that visa, turn around, apply for the exact same visa and get it, right? Or apply for a different visa or a higher visa, a green card, and get it. So don't over worry a previous rejection. ESTA, as the comment writer knows, is an agreement that the United States has with certain countries by which those citizens can enter the United States as tourists on a temporary basis without even needing a visa. So the short answer is no. You got an E2 denied. You still want to use an ESTA, enter the US with ESTA, you should be all right. The yes, but lawyer part of my answer is this. It may depend upon why your E2 was denied. A common reason for denial that I sometimes see, or people come to me after they get denied, is that the United States government had worries or doubts that the applicant didn't have sufficient ties to their home country. Why does it matter? Well, the E2 is a temporary visa. You can renew it forever. It's indefinite. You can stay here the rest of your life if you keep renewing it, right? But in name, it's a temporary visa, which means it will come with an expiration date. There will be a day on the calendar where you either renew the visa or you go home, okay? The government is worried that some applicants may enter with an E2 visa, simply never leave, stay here the rest of their life, right? And one of the ways they guard against that is to make sure, hey, Alaattin, you're from Turkey. Do you have ties to Turkey? Does your grandmother still live there? Do you have a bank account there? Do you own a car? Do you belong to a social club or a soccer team or something? They want to see that you have real ties to your home country. So if the day comes that you need to return, you would be happy to go home, all right? If your E2 was denied for that reason, they may also have doubts about your ESTA. So that's the yes, but. It could get complicated. But if Maupa reaches out to me or to Visa Franchise, we'd be happy to help them evaluate the situation.
Got it. Thanks, Grant. In order to address the second part of the question, is let me do that real quick. Is there a way to get a green card after some years? E2 visa doesn't technically lead to a green card, but there are other ways to get a green card, and we have addressed that in many different videos. It's a topic on its own. You might refer back to some of our videos, or we'll be covering that particular subject anyway in the next couple of weeks. But the short answer is sí, señor. Yes. Let's go to another question. Gregory Noges. I hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly. Noges. Hi guys. I hear often that you have to invest before the application 50%. Is that true? Not quite sure if I understand the question perfectly, but are you meaning that you need to spend at least 50% of the funds before you apply? If that is the question, then what is the answer, Grant?
So the more the better is always the answer. Uncle Sam likes dollars, right? And so they're going to look at two numbers when you apply. And when I say you apply, I mean the day that you submit your application. There's going to be a day that you send it out and you're done. You can't change it anymore, right? On that day, they're going to want to know how much money have you brought to the United States. That's going to be your investment total, right? Out of that figure, how many dollars have already either been spent or contractually obligated to be spent in the future? There's not a magic 50%. You got to spend 50%. But I would say typically most applicants spend more than 50%, right? So if I'm bringing over $60,000 as an investment, and 40,000 remains in my business bank account untouched, and I've spent 20 in furtherance of the business, right? They may look at that with a little bit of skepticism because they will wonder, are you holding back, right? Are you kind of guarding against the possibility you may not get this visa? So the more you invest in the business, the more credibility you have, and the more serious you seem as an applicant.
That's great. I mean, we keep on getting a lot of questions, guys. Thank you so much for these. Please don't forget to like the video, as that is the fee applied on every single question. So please go ahead and do that. And Grant, we're getting a lot of these questions. So shorter answers, more questions. We got another one from Torres. Hi, when the consulate schedules an interview. Oh, that's an interesting one. Does that mean that they approve the documents? The chance of approval is high. What happens? What does it mean if a consulate schedules an interview?
It really just means they received your application packet and they're ready to talk with you about it. I don't know that it's a green light. It's usually typical that if you submit an application and it meets the basic criteria, you'll get an interview date.
Dale. Billy Mac builds. Billy, thanks for the question. Can someone start the business and start running it before we apply for the visa? It's a very good question.
And a delicate answer. So the government will like to see that your business is operational, it's ready to go. The closer you are to being operational and profitable, the stronger your application. But if you don't have some type of legal visa allowing you to draw income, then it would be illegal for you already to be profiting from the business, right? So you got to be careful. And that's a question I would say to Billy, definitely bring to a lawyer. Call me, email me, reach out to Alaattin, because that's a delicate one.
Reach out, people should do indeed. That being said, I think this is a great opportunity to sort of like share my screen and introduce a few concepts. Guys, we have recently wrote a book. It's called Own Your American Dream. And we went back and have spoken to 20 plus success stories. These are people just like you who came to the US, opened up their businesses, got their E2 visas or got their L1 visas. Some of them transitioned into EB5s. Some of them transitioned into EB1Cs or EB1As. These are all green cards. And hear it from the horse's mouth to see what went wrong, what went right, what they were thinking, and what happened in actuality, and what was their pathway towards the expected outcome that they had. I think there is a lot of value in this. The book is free for the next 5 days. All you got to do is just put in your name, your last name, your email, your phone number, and claim your ebook, or go to Amazon.com and buy the paperback version of it. And that's only at $10. And that's that. That being said, our team, Grant, is being positioned pretty decently. I mean, I was trying to introduce the team prior to my connection issue. But Jack and Patrick are the two co-founders of the company, but they're guided by their father, Joe Findar, with 40 plus years of law experience, who's an attorney himself, who works with White House and U.S. Congress. This is particularly important for us because we understand what the lawmakers want. There's, some things on the paper, that's one thing, and policies change all the time. And that's what we do. We kind of reverse engineer these cases towards the liking of the U.S. consular officers. Obviously, Grant's position here is that Grant supervises all the applications that we're preparing. But before we file an E2 visa case, Tiago Bebesco, who is a former U.S. consulate staffer with 12 years of experience at the Sao Paulo consulate, and he himself worked on the E2 visa team. This was the person who approved or denied these E2 visa cases. So before a case goes out of Visa Franchise's hand, it goes through many different checks, and we want to make sure that we have the petition airtight. So that's that. And to sort of reinforce that point, here is a question. I'm a Brazilian, have Italian citizenship, very well. And I want to open a car rental company in Florida with 100K. Should the total investment be just in cars? Would you know the licenses to open the company? Let me answer the second part of this question. We, as Visa Franchise, we have a company policy that we don't necessarily advise on what kind of licenses to get for specific businesses and industries, because people come to us with many different business ideas. That's kind of your job to do that due diligence and understand what you needed to have. But apart from that, should the total investment be just in cars, Grant?
You want to diversify your investment as much as possible. And the best way to do that is, I think, to ask yourself, if I already had the visa today, what would I need, right? If you had the visa in the business today, yeah, you're going to need cars. You're going to need a rental lot. You're going to need offices, computing, probably employees. So start to think about, what does the business actually need? And those will be good targets for your investment.
That's a nice and short answer. But does Angelo need a minimum number of employees, or can he be the principal employee? No employees at all?
A lot of applicants apply with no employees, and sometimes they even project, I won't have an employee for the rest of the first year. So that's normal. It's acceptable. However, the more employees that you can project, the better. You don't need to have them already at the day of the application. Sometimes you don't want to be paying salaries yet when the business isn't running. But if you can get to that point, you're in a very strong place.
That's great. So yeah, opening is no problem. I would love to start the business and get it started. Then before I got the visa, the revenue coming in, could it sit in the LLC account? I guess what's meant here is, I'm gonna open the business. I don't necessarily have the E2 visa to run it, but at the end of the day, it's my business and my investment that's at risk. I'm not drawing a salary. I'm not engaging in a day-to-day operations, but I have employees to do that. But money is accumulating on the company bank account. Is that an issue?
Yeah, this is the gentleman from before, Billy. So make sure, Billy, you got to like and subscribe, because you got 2 questions in, right? Yeah, I think it's, like I said, Billy, the first time, it's kind of, the timing can be delicate, right? The short answer is yes, but because you're getting close to that line of violating the terms of a different visa class, presuming you're here as a tourist or something like that, you want to be careful. So with that particular question, I would just really encourage you to speak to an attorney, because your circumstances probably are specific.
All right. Thanks, Billy, and thanks, Angelo. No, you don't have to be sorry. I mean, these are great questions. Okay, so let's carry on with our usual rundown and address this particular point, Grant. Funds must be at risk funds at risk. How do you prove that? And can people put in certain protections in place in case the visa is denied to recuperate the complete, well, the entirety is very hard, but at least a portion of the investment? How does that sit with the visa officers? I guess what would be the best strategy? Because at the end of the day, if you're investing at 80K, 100K, you're probably not in a situation where you can afford to lose that money in the case of a denial. We as Visa franchise, we provide money back guarantee, a full refund of our fees, but the bigger portion is that 80 to 100K. And of course, what you want to be doing is that, all right, how do I recuperate this money? When the officer knows that, what happens?
Yeah, I was talking with an Australian applicant this morning who's investing into a race car business in Las Vegas, right? So we got talking about Las Vegas, city I've never been to. And the point is, we got talking about casinos. The US government's a little bit like a casino insofar as the house always wins, right? They want to profit if you get the visa. They want to profit if you don't get the visa. So when they say at risk, what they mean is they want you to spend as much of your money out the door as you can. If it's spent, it's in the pockets and the bank accounts of US citizens. And that's the whole goal of the US government, right? Obviously, if you're a smart businessman, a smart businesswoman, you want to kind of hedge your risk and try to see, is there some way I can get some of this money back, right? The government knows this, they understand this, they accept this, but you want to maximize your risk for a stronger application. So there's kind of a balance there. How much am I willing to risk? The more that I spend, the stronger my application. Some people set up arrangements where they will open escrow accounts, right? And the escrow will be conditioned to pay out a certain vendor, a business vendor, a franchisor, someone like this, if and when the visa is approved. If not, the funds return to the applicant. So there are different steps you can take to protect your investment. But again, the main emphasis is putting your money at risk and spent. So the more you can do that, the stronger your application.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Grant. As we are approaching to the end of this live stream, I hope you guys find it beneficial. If you have, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want a bit more, personalized look at your case, please go to visafranchise.com and check your eligibility. Provide us some information. It's a 2 to 3 minute questionnaire that we provide. Once you take that, our team will review your case. And if it seems like, hey, look, we can actually help you, we'll schedule a call. And during that call, we call it discovery solution call. We'll try to see whether we can help you or not. If we can, then we're going to talk about the next steps and how our engagement happens and how our process works. But the key is to go to visafranchise.com and fill out your questionnaire. Can I squeeze in one more question?
Sure.
I was going to say Leonidas, but Leonardo Diomedes. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have applied and received the 8 to 10 weeks of pre-screening, and I already have an American employee for administrative duties. I don't expect to take this long. Is it okay to keep this employee while this is pending, I guess?
Yeah. So it sounds like good things are happening for Leonardo. His application is in. It's being pre-screened, probably at a U.S. consulate. And so I would advise him just hold the course, keep the business just as it is right now. I know it's expensive to keep paying an employee without knowing that you have the visa yet. But if you are in process, better not to make any big changes. If Leonardo reaches out to us, we could help him with more detail.
Very well. Okay. Grant, if there are no other questions, Leonardo's Italian. Great, Leonardo. Thanks.
That's one last point I will jump in on, Alaattin, is that
okay.
This whole conversation we're talking about, E2s, you want to make sure that if you're going to be an applicant, you hold the passport from one of the approved E2 countries, which is not everywhere, right? So previous question asker says she's Brazilian, but also Italian. She's going to have to apply as an Italian, right? So you can Google and search those countries online. Make sure you have an E2 country passport.
Cool. All right. Just to close the show, Grant, if you are somebody who's eyeing E2 visa, and for some reason, maybe the cash is tight right now, or the business that you're thinking about investing doesn't really require all 100K. So you got 80K for this. The rest is dedicated for other things. What would your strategy be? I mean, how would you think and approach this whole process?
I would ask myself a couple questions. And if the answers are yes, I would move forward. Do I have the right kind of passport from an E2 country? Yes. This business I'm looking at, will it be sufficiently funded with my investment amount? Whether that's 30,000, 50,000, or 79,000. If yes, can I put those funds clearly at risk? Can I really spend them to further the interests of the business? Ownership. Can I demonstrate majority ownership, operational control of this business? And then finally, even though my investment is not as big as some other applicants, can I demonstrate that this is going to be a profitable business and it will generate more than just what I need to live in the United States? If you answer yes to those questions, I think the E2 is for you, and you should really seriously think about moving forward.
Thank you very much, Grant Dwyer. And thanks for all you guys who joined the live stream and sending your questions. Continue following Visa Franchise. We have more live streams coming in. And if you guys want us to take a bit more detailed look into your case to see whether we're a good fit, please go to visafranchise.com and fill out the survey. And if you're a good fit, you'll receive a link for a discovery solution call with me or with some other member of our team. And then we're going to have to sort of like see what we can do for you. And that being said, thank you very much for joining. Grant, thanks. Have a lovely one.
Thanks for having me.